insurance. This liability is the best buy in the insurance world. It's very inexpensive, and a lot of people trying to cut corners will get like a 150 coverage on liability. Never do that. Always take at least 500 on your property, on your liability. When you're looking at these splits on these things, always take at least a 500. It's just a few dollars, literally pennies a month, pennies a year in some cases. Liability is the best buy in the insurance world, especially when it comes to auto situations. You could consider dropping your collision on older cars. I have not found that to be as true now as it used to be 20 years ago when I first started talking about this. Collision rates have gone down. And so again, you say, all right, I'm driving around a $6,000 car here. My collision is only $600. Well, that's 10 years that I'm taking the risk on that, because collision is not if you tear up somebody else's car, fixes theirs. Collision is if you tear up your car, it fixes your car. And unless you've got enough cash to just write a check and buy a car, you can't drop the collision. But if you're sitting there with $50,000 or $60,000 cash, you could drop the collision. But I got to tell you, I'm in a financial position to write a check and replace my car, probably not even hardly notice as I do it, and I still carry collision. Because again, on a nicer car, it's a good value. It really ends up being a good value. So, but you can look at it and say, I'm going to look at maybe dropping the collision. I'm telling you though, up front, I haven't dropped it on any of our stuff. And it's not because I'm crazy about insurance. I'm not. I just look at what I'm paying versus the risk I'm taking. Is it worth transferring that risk for those dollars? And in that case, I felt really good about it.
Car insurance is one of those expenses you just can't get away from. Since you have to buy it regardless, we want to show you a few ways to keep your rates low. One option is to raise your deductible. This is the amount of money that you must pay to have your car fixed before insurance kicks in. If you've got a decent chunk of money set aside in your emergency fund, you may be able to afford a higher deductible. Then your monthly bill will be lower, and if you don't get into a wreck, your savings will be well worth it. Another option is to take and pass the driver's ed course. If you've already done that, talk with your insurance provider about available discounts and send them your certificate of completion. Lastly, you could simply stay on your parents' insurance for as long as possible and avoid filing claims for small repairs that you can pay cash for. Over time, these steps will save you money.
Homeowners coverage should be guaranteed replacement cost. Circle the word guaranteed there. There's been a big shift in the insurance business with the last couple of hurricanes on this. Most of the majors, most of the name brand homeowners companies have gone away from guaranteed replacement cost. 10, 15 years ago, guaranteed replacement cost was standard with everybody, and hardly any of them carry it now. Guaranteed replacement cost is this. If you take out a $200,000 policy on your $200,000 house, you go along 5 years and the house is now worth $350,000, and you never updated your insurance agent never called you, you never said anything, it covers the whole house. You bought $200,000 worth of coverage, but it covers $350,000. It replaces the house, even if you don't raise the amounts. That's guaranteed replacement cost, and that's the way all homeowners used to be written. And again, hardly anyone writes it that way anymore. Instead, they do what's called extended replacement cost. And what they'll do is they'll take that $200,000 policy and they will extend the coverage only 10% out or 20% out. And so if they extend a $200,000 policy 20% out, that means that house could go up to $240,000 and you never touch your insurance and you're covered. But if that house goes to $350,000 and it burns and you have a $200,000 policy with a 20% kicker on it, then you are going to be short about $110,000 to put that house back together, and you've got a mess on your hands. And the reason they did this was that people weren't coming back in and upping their insurance. Now, a lot of the insurance agents are mad at me because I bring this up, and they say, well, Dave, it's our job to come in and increase the coverage. And I said, yeah, but it's my job to protect the consumer. I'm sitting there with a paid-for, nice house in a market that is escalating and then sometimes gets a little soft and escalates other times, and I don't want to have to sit down once a year and run a dad-blame appraisal on my house just to make sure your insurance that I'm paying you for is covering me. So I want guaranteed replacement cost, not extended replacement cost. My point is to protect you so you know what you've got. If you're going to carry the extended replacement cost, you got to update it once a year. You got to make sure that your coverage is enough to replace your house. So you have to stay very involved and very plugged in. If you're going to move out and get your first apartment, you need to have renter's insurance. Renter's insurance covers the contents of the renter's apartment. And so if you have a fire and your furniture, your stereo, your clothes, that kind of stuff gets burned up, it replaces your stuff inside the apartment for fire. It also replaces it for theft. And with a $250 deductible, literally $10, $15 a month, you can buy renter's insurance. Never be without renter's insurance, ever, when you're renting an apartment or renting a house. Umbrella policies are a really good idea. An umbrella liability policy picks up where your homeowner's or your auto insurance liability leaves off. So if you carry $500,000, you get in a bad wreck and it's your fault and somebody sues you for more, then the insurance company is going to pay $500,000. After that, if they sue you for another $1 million, it's got to come from you. They're going to bankrupt you, is what they're going to do. But you can get an umbrella that goes over the top of your homeowners and your car and attaches to those $500,000 limits, picks up from there and goes on. And so you can buy an extra $1 million in liability if you're starting to get some assets. If you're starting to really build up your 401k, you got some equity in your house, you're making some good money, you're starting to build some assets, you need to get an umbrella policy. You can buy an extra $1 million of liability in umbrella for around a couple of $100 a year. So it's a deal. It's a really good deal. I carry a $10 million umbrella because I've got a little bit of a fear of the Dave Ramsey factor. You know, I bump into somebody in the car and they go, oh, it's no big deal. And I hand them my license. They go, Dave Ramsey, oh.
It may seem like a waste of money to pay for renter's insurance when you're in college, but it's an absolute must. Yes, I understand you may not have the nicest furniture, TV, or laptop right now, but if something happens, trust me, you'll be glad you have insurance. And if it wouldn't take a lot of money to replace your stuff, that just means your insurance will be cheap. Most universities will cover the cost of a natural disaster or fire in your dorm. So renter's insurance may not be necessary if you live on campus. But if you live in a house or an apartment, please get renter's insurance. By the time something bad happens, it's too late to wish you had it.